Good morning or good afternoon. My name is Jordan Cullen, and I'm the Product Marketing Manager for ArcGIS Business Analyst. Today, my colleagues Praveen and Helen, who are the two product managers for Business Analyst, have joined me for this webinar, ArcGIS Business Analyst Web App for Beginners. Whether you're brand new to Business Analyst, you're looking to share what you learn here with your colleagues, or you just need a refresher, you're in the right spot. So, let's get started. On our agenda, we have 6 areas that we're going to cover, as well as a question and answer section at the end. You'll see that 3 of the agenda items are shown in orange font, as these are our demo sections. First, I'll start with an introduction of the ArcGIS Business Analyst Web App. Second, Praveen is going to take over and give a demo orientation of the Business Analyst Web App, including topics like logging in, accessing recent projects, searching, infographics, and more. Next, I'll quickly talk about site selection, immediately followed by Helen giving a demo of the Business Analyst Site Suitability Analysis tool. After that, I'll talk about how Business Analysts can help with target marketing efforts. We'll switch back over to Helen, who will show how to make simple maps using the data browser and Smart Map Search. And lastly, I'll jump back in and briefly go over resources and how to contact the team. Then we'll launch our Q&A section. If at any time during the webinar you have a question, please feel free to type it into the chat. During the Q&A, we'll do our best to get to all of your questions. So, to kick off this webinar, we want to start with a poll. So, here we go. How much do you agree with the following statement? I am confident using the ArcGIS Business Analyst Web App. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of votes rolling. We got about 86% of you have voted so far. We'll give it about 10 more seconds or so. Again, how much do you agree with this statement? I am confident using the ArcGIS Business Analyst Web App. All right. So that's great. I see a lot of you agree, and some of you strongly agree. That's fantastic. So now that we have the poll done, the ArcGIS Business Analyst Web App is a browser-based application that allows you to see people and opportunities clearly using location-based intelligence. Using business analysts, real estate specialists, retail managers, economic developers, and business professionals all the way up to senior executives can combine demographic, lifestyle, and other data for planning, segmentation, advertising, site selection, and so much more. Plus, you can present what you find in beautiful custom infographics like these. ArcGIS Business Analyst comes with global data that covers 90% of the world's population in more than 135 countries, with 15,000 plus variables on market data. This data can then be viewed and analyzed using mapping and spatial analysis tools, including drive time, consumer profiling, trade areas, and cannibalization. Then using analytical workflows, you can identify underperforming markets, pinpoint the right growth sites, find where your target customers live, and share your market research across the organization. Of course, we all need to be able to share our analysis with our colleagues, stakeholders, and managers. So Business Analyst provides customizable reports and infographics that can be used to share your work. ArcGIS Business Analyst is a solution built on ArcGIS, and through web and mobile apps, it provides location-based intelligence for targeted marketing, planning, site selection, and customer analytics and segmentation. There's so much data available to use as Business Analyst. You can access over 15,000 variable options like demographics, consumer spending, business locations, market potential, and much more. Of course, you can also access Esri's tapestry segmentation. And tapestry segmentation classifies neighborhoods into 67 unique segments based not only on demographics, but also on socioeconomic characteristics. It describes U.S. neighborhoods in easy to visualize terms, ranging from soccer moms to heartland communities. And Business Analyst works seamlessly across your devices, whether using an internet browser on a Windows machine or a MacBook, or if you're using an iPhone or an Android device. Business Analyst is there to help you run site selection, analyze data, and reach the right customers on the go. All right, it's time for our first demo. I'm now going to hand the presentation over to Praveen. All right, Praveen, take it away.
All right, thank you, Jordan. So what I wanted to do here is give you guys a quick overview of the application and also like a walkthrough of different options where the help documentation is what are some learning resources in the application, and where each of the workflows, some of those that Jordan mentioned, is in the application. So when you log into the application, you land onto this home tab here that I'm showing on my screen. And this is a great page for you to get started. And this page also includes a number of introductory information about the application on how to use it and how to find more help for different workflows and such. So first thing here, I would highly recommend you to check out is this quick start video on this home tab. And what this has is this video is essentially a 3 minutes long video and addresses many of the key workflows of the application that you'll probably be using most of the times when using the application. Highly recommend to check that out. If you haven't used the application before, you would probably want to click on the Get Started Now button here, which will take you to a page to create your first project. If you have already used the application, then your recent projects and some of your recent work such as the sites you have created or the reports, those are easily accessible from this recently created area here. This area here in the top essentially has some banners that help you learn more about some of the new features or the workflows that we have been adding in the application. So let's go to a couple other some main areas here in the application: the Maps tab and the Reports tab, which is what you'll probably be using for most part when you're using the application. So the Maps tab here, once you come here, one thing you would notice on the top, on the right bottom here, is this orange box of step-by-step guided tours. I really like these these workflows, and what they do is they help you go through a workflow in a step-by-step fashion. So for example, let's say if I were to choose the create a color-coded map from data guided tour, you would notice that there is this guide that's walking me through how to create color-coded map or how to create my first color-coded map in this application at each step of the way. So now it's suggesting me to select one of these categories, and this is essentially what I'm doing here is using the data browser, which helps me access the 15,000 plus variables that Jordan was mentioning. In this case, I just want to simply choose the income variable and create a color-coded map of median household income in the US. And there you go. Like in less than 4 clicks here, I have a nice color-coded map of the median household income for the US. You would see that the guided tour here is suggesting me that there is an ability to filter this data as well. So if I want to find the states that have median income between $55,000 and $75,000, I can simply do that using these sliders. The other thing you would notice here that there is a drop down here to help you that helps you choose different geography for your map. So if I were to create this map at the county level, I can simply switch to that and also lock my map using this lock button here. So when I'm moving the map around or zooming in and out, that geography level will be locked as well. So that was a kind of a quick overview of the guided tour. There are many more here that you can try. These are really easy way to learn many workflows in this application. You can always close it or hide it for future, and it gets stored in the help menu here. So for example, if I were to access it again, I can simply go there and launch it back up here. All right, so let me show you a few more things here in the application. So what we saw was the one way of creating maps, which is the color-coded mapping. There are a couple other ways available here, such as a smart map search that allows you to combine multiple variables and set criteria for each of them and find the geographies that meet the criteria. We're going to see a demo of that in Helen's part in a few minutes. Then the second workflow here, which is really powerful, is the business and facilities search. And it allows you to search for businesses or facilities in an area that could be your competitor businesses or companion businesses, put them on the map, also filter them to meet the certain criteria that you're interested in. A lot of users are interested in bringing in their own data and using that with Business Analyst on the map in reporting and such. So we have multiple ways of bringing in your own data. The most popular one here is the importing files. So you might have your own spreadsheet of property locations that you want to map and analyze in Business Analyst. So by simply using this workflow here, you could do that. The other thing you might be noticing that for each of these workflows, there is a watch video link at the bottom. So those are pretty short, 2 to 3 minute long videos on YouTube that you can watch to see a step-by-step guide on each of the workflows to understand how to use them and how to apply them to your use cases. You can also bring in data available in ArcGIS Online or your layers and maps available in ArcGIS Online to use them in Business Analyst using the other two workflows. You can define your sites in multiple ways using these options in define areas. So for example, you can simply search for an address and create your site around it, or you can choose to map zip codes or counties or other administrative boundaries, including DMAs or CBSAs in the US. Or you can also just create your own custom polygon by just drawing that on the map using this option here. There are a couple of analysis options available here as well. One of them is suitability analysis, probably the most popular analysis workflow in the application that allows you to score multiple candidate locations based on your market criteria and find the most suitable one that you might be interested in. The other thing I wanted to announce here that next week we will be releasing another analysis workflow called void analysis. And that allows you to compare two different communities or areas and identify the business services gap between the two using the void analysis workflow. As Jordan was mentioning, there are multiple ways of sharing your maps and analysis that you're doing in the application. One popular one here is the creating a static PDF or image that you could email to someone or share with someone. You can also create interactive web maps in ArcGIS that you can share with others. But the really popular one here is the story map option. Some of you might be familiar with what a story map is, but if you don't know what it is essentially an interactive way of presenting your information, including maps, infographics, reports, and other information about your locations. And it almost creates like a website that you can send, that you can take the link of that and email that to anyone so they can look at the work you've been doing and make some decisions. A couple other things I wanted to highlight here is if you have let's go to the reports tab here. So a couple of things I wanted to show here. This area is for running different types of reports. There are some predefined templates available for classic tabular style reports or much more modern infographic interactive style reports that you can use. You can create your custom infographic or report templates using your own data and logo as well that we'll be seeing pretty soon. And you can also compare multiple areas using comparison reports option here available. One other thing I wanted to show here is the project. So when you come into the application, you first create a project, and essentially what it is a way to store and organize your content that you will be using in the application. So for example, I have my point location sites or my geography sites such as zip codes. Any reports I have run previously here, they are available, so I can go back and access them from here as well. If you want to switch to another project, you can browse through all of them from here and go to another project and use information available there as well. So one thing I wanted to show here is which is a pretty common workflow most of our users have is, for example, let's say they want to search for an address. In this case, I'm searching for the SD's headquarter address here using the search bar, and they want to create a study area around it. There are multiple ways of creating that study areas. So for example, you could use rings, which is simply 1, 3, or 5 miles or any other radiuses you want to enter here. Or you can also create a drive or walk time trade area around your site. The most popular one here that many of our users use is the drive time option. So what that is essentially the area that could be covered by, in terms of driving from this location. So for example, what we are seeing on the map here is in the green here is the area that could be covered within 10 minutes of drive from this location. So let's say my goal is to understand how many people live in this area and what's their median age and income and such. And a really easy way to do that is using the infographic option available from the menu there. So when I run the infographic, you can now see this is the this is really beautiful way of presenting information, and it summarizes all that information in a succinct manner here that you can share with others. So for example, I can see that within the 5-minute drive time, we have over 16,000 people living. Their median age is 33.5. And these things, these infographics are interactive. So like, for example, I can click on median age and look at the age profile of this area by different age brackets and genders as well. You can also see that there are charts and different types of visualization, including an interactive map here. This chart here includes historical population data, and it shows that the population in this area, in the 5-minute drive time area around SG's headquarters, did not grow as much as it grew from 2015 onwards to 2019. I can change this study area to, let's say, to 10 minutes, and you'll see all the numbers and data changing here and reflecting the information for the 10 minutes drive time. The other common workflow here is that a lot of users like to add not just the point locations, but also, for example, a city boundary. So here I search for just changing this option to the boundary option. I search for the Redland city, and now I want to summarize some information for the city here. And in this case, what I want to do is create a tabular report for such as, let's say I want to create a demographic and income comparison profile. And I could choose to run that in a PDF or Excel format. And what it is going to do is the yellow Redland city boundary that we are seeing, it is summarizing a number of demographic information for that for the city. So I could see the population, census 2010 population or 2019 estimated population for the city, and the growth here as well, and a number of other variables summarized in this PDF format. So this is another way of kind of looking at information and sharing with others. So I kind of covered a lot here in less than 10 minutes. So one other pointer I wanted to give you is this help menu here. And I would highly recommend you to check out the help documentation here, which has the information for each of these workflows summarized here on these web pages, and they are laid out the way the application that menus are structured. So for example, I can go here and learn more about suitability analysis and also watch a video and such. The other very common question we get from users is what kind of data is included with the business analyst, and what is the source of the data, the vintage and such. So the data documentation pages have pretty robust set of information on those. So for example, if I go to the business data here, I can look at what this data is, what's the source of this data, the vintage, the methodology and such. And one other thing here in this I wanted to highlight is that I'm working here by selecting my country as US, but I could switch to another country in the world. For example, I could choose Australia, and the application will load the data for Australia and reports and infographics that I could use. So this allows you to access the 135 plus countries data that Jordan was mentioning in the beginning. So with that, I will give it back to Jordan to continue the presentation.
Thanks, Praveen. I'm going to go back to presenting here in just one moment. All right. So thanks for that great orientation demo. And now we're going to move on to discussing site suitability. So here's a question, or something that I want you to think about rather. Each year, over 600,000 new businesses are opened in the United States, and many of these have a dedicated location outside the home. But here's something else to think about. How many existing businesses open or expand to a new location each year? The number is practically uncountable, but I'm sure you understand that finding a new physical space that meets the specific needs of your business isn't a simple task. What's even harder is being sure that you found the right location for the expansion. This includes making sure that the size of the office space meets your needs. Maybe a parking lot is vital for your success, or a large parking lot is vital for your success. Or maybe you need to take a deep dive into the demographics of an area because your product or service typically appeals to those with a certain income, maybe a specific education level, maybe even those with a larger family. Or maybe you're the one suggesting locations to your customers based off the needs they've expressed. Regardless, business analysts can help you with this. Between opening a new business or expanding an existing one, often there's a question about which location suits you or your customer best. Now I'll hand the reins over to my colleague Helen for the next demo.
Thanks, Jordan. So as Jordan mentioned, I'm just going to pretend that I am opening a yoga studio in the county of Los Angeles. And I'm picking this example because it's a great example of showing some of the workflows that we have in our business analyst. So first, I'm going to go ahead and pretend that a broker has provided us some sites for analysis that I'm considering for future expansion. So I'm going to be using a tab called Add Data. And then later on, I'm also going to be creating boundaries around it to create an area that I can add data to. And then I'm also going to run analysis using site suitability that both Jordan and Praveen had mentioned. And there I'm going to be combining the data that I uploaded along with the data that comes with Business Analyst, and then rank the sites. And then later on, I will also show you how to share the results. So first of all, I'm going to pretend that I received this Excel file from my broker. It includes 7 sites in Los Angeles County that I could be looking at. So it includes not only the actual locations, but the parking space, the size of the units, and then the rent prices. For me, because depending on the location, the variables that matter to you will differ. But for me, I'm just pretending that because it's in LA, parking is going to be very vital for me. Rent is going to be vital for my financial success of the future studio. So now I'm going to click on go to Maps, Add Data, and I'm going to import file. I'm going to search for that specific file, and then I'm going to click Import. And it's going to give me 2 options. Because I have specific locations and not boundaries, I'm going to click Point Locations. I'm going to match the fields that Business Analyst shows me along with the column that I have. I'm going to note that they all match up, and I'm going to click Next. I'll select the default symbols, and I'm going to click Next here. And whereas you can just save the points, today I'm going to be actually creating a boundary around it so that I can analyze it. So I'll select drive time, and I've noted that by default it's coming in as 20 minutes. And then I'm actually going to name this layer as potential yoga sites. And I'm going to select the first column of my Excel file to name the actual point sites. I'm going to click Save. And now the system is accommodating all of the point layers and creating boundaries around it. So it's also uploading the site attributes such as parking and rent. And now I'm going to say I'm done. And because the location of competitors actually matters to me while I'm analyzing these sites, I'm actually going to use a tool called Business and Facility Search under Maps, Create Maps. So here you have the option of selecting from either business categories, or in my case, because I'm looking for yoga studios, I'll just go ahead and type yoga. If you have more specific information, such as NAICS codes or SIC codes, you can actually use that information as well. But for today's demo, I'll just go ahead and select yoga. And while that's searching, you are shown additional filters. So I'm actually going to note that actually all the yoga studios are okay with me, but what I will do is, because I'm focused on focusing on businesses that are making at least $1.5 million, I'm actually going to filter the sales volume and note that the map updated it so that it's only showing the yoga studios that make at least $1.5 million. I'm going to select Next, and I'm going to note that, okay, I'm using this symbol, I'm going to be using that symbology. And then instead of clicking I'm done, I'm actually going to save it as a layer, because I will be using this information as a yoga competitor information for site analysis later on. So now if I can kind of inventory what I have thus far, I have my competitors layer, I have the layer and the site attributes that I've uploaded. Now I'm going to actually go into Maps, Run Analysis, and select Suitability Analysis. Suitability Analysis is very powerful because it will actually help me use all the variables that I have in addition to some of Esri's data to actually weight them and then actually rank the site. So I'm going to start with features on the map, and I'm going to select just my sites for now. It's automatically going to upload all the sites that I just uploaded, and it's defaulting to the radius that I selected previously. Now it's giving me 3 different options. I'm going to select the point layer to add the competitor layer, the yoga competitor layer that I just created. I'm going to select that, and I see that information populating. Next, I'm actually going to add the custom data, the site attributes that I had just uploaded in the very beginning. So I'm going to add parking and rent because those 2 variables really matter to me. And then lastly, I'm actually going to launch the variables from the data browser. So as Praveen noted previously, once you click on data browser, it's going to give you the ability to search for the data that matter to you, or give you the categories to search within. To me, income for our business, income matters, so I'm going to select median income household. Note that all the variables that I'm selecting are being populated here. So I've added 1 thus far. I'm actually going to see if they have any variables related to yoga. So I'm seeing that they actually have 2019 data of people who participated in yoga in the last 12 months. I will add that, and then I'll say apply. Now, site suitability has all the variables, the site attributes, my competitors' data, as well as the data that comes with Business Analyst. And it has added, distributed the weighting scale equally across each of these variables. But because I know that for my business, my clientele really needs to have parking, I'm going to raise parking to 30%. And I'm going to lock that down. And then because rent is important for my financial success, I'm going to raise that to 20%. And I'm also going to lock that down. This Business Analyst automatically distributes the remaining weights across the remaining variables. And then take a look at how the colors have been changing. And then also this table down here, it's actually ranking all the sites. So it's weighting each of the variables separately, and then summing up all the scores from each of the variables, and then getting to a final score, and then ranking all of the sites across those scores. So also note that in addition to what I have, I actually noted I need to change rent, because as rent goes up, it's probably a less desirable location for me. So I'm changing the relationship of that, and notice how the colors changed and the rankings changed as well. Competitors information automatically comes in as inverse, but if it's a companion location, you can change that to positive relationship as well. Additionally, aside from just the numbers, you can actually use index. So if index is at 100%, that basically means that it's the same, it's like the average of the state, of the country. So if you want to use index to configure or filter your data, you can use this as well. Lastly, once you have this information, because the ranking for sites 3 and 6 are so close, I'm just going to note that as the top 2 sites for me, when I present the data to my team, they'll be able to note that we have these 2 options. They came in really close. And as to kind of wrap up site suitability, I'm also noting that you can actually export this analysis so that you can come back to it and this will save all the variables so that you can edit it in the future, or just use it for different locations as well. And now I'll hand it over to Jordan. Let me just.
Thank you, Helen. That was awesome. So our next topic we want to discuss is target marketing. Here's a question I like to pose to the audience. Have you ever seen a really bad ad? I think we all have at one time or another, right? This first billboard here is for a city in Arizona. There's just such a large amount of text that wouldn't be readable as you're passing the car. There's a reference to camels that non-residents that we wouldn't understand, and even general layout just doesn't quite make the mark. I've even had to block out some of the stuff from the billboard so it's even more packed than what you see here. This next one really makes me sad. This ad didn't take into consideration how it could make some people feel, and certainly the artist didn't have an inclusive design at the top of mind. Or maybe we can think of great ads, or exceptional ads, or what about great marketing efforts in general? What happens if you've done everything right, but your marketing just isn't quite reaching the correct audience? Take this billboard as an example. This billboard won awards for its design, but what if it was in a location where families didn't typically work on their vehicles or didn't personally make updates to their homes? This is an exceptional example of a brochure for childcare. This design is great. I love the text. But what if this daycare center was open in the wrong locations for the services they're providing? Or if the brochures weren't delivered to the right homes in the right zip codes? Well, what if I decided I wanted to open my own yoga studio or a second yoga studio? I would need to take so many factors into considerations, like demographics, income, education level, or even parking, to select the right spot for my business and for my marketing efforts. So I'm going to hand it back over to Helen for a final demo of this webinar, and she's going to talk about analysis and sharing. Take it away, Helen.
Thanks, Jordan. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. So now that I've done site suitability analysis, I'm going to actually zoom in to the top ranking site, which was site 3. So I'm going to click here. I'm in my maps view, projects view. I'm going to click here in the ellipse and then go to zoom to site. And once I'm here, I can actually dive in deeper into the site that I'm looking at. I'm going to go into a couple of infographics because I want to see, as I'm targeting the audience within that site, who lives there and what kind of marketing I would be doing. And so I'm first looking at demographic profile, but and this is actually a template that I customized with the logo of the company. And then I actually inserted the yoga in last 12 months variable in here because it's important for the stakeholders who would be looking at this data. But you don't have to use just this. There's a plethora of Esri's templates that already come with the program. And so I'm actually going to show you Tapestry profile because as I'm thinking about who to market to, I want to know the audience that I'm looking at. So this Tapestry segments not only gives you a summary of all the life modes, and as Praveen mentioned, this is all interactive, and all of this infographics can be inserted into the website that I'll be creating later, which I'll be sharing with my stakeholders and coworkers for further analysis. So what I'll do is I'm actually going to go back to a couple of more demographic summary here. And then I'll show you, because the top 2 sites that I was looking at, sites 3 and 6 were so close, I'm actually going to add one more site to this report. So I'm actually going to also include site 6 because they were so close. I didn't feel that I should just take that site out, for at least not right now. So because I want to share this information with my stakeholders, I'm going to do a side-by-side infographic so that my stakeholders can take a look at this so that we can kind of talk about it and then analyze this further. And here you can print it, you can actually export the infographics out yourself, and then share it with your team members. And then lastly, I want to show you a little bit of how I actually created the custom infographic. So when you go into reports, as Praveen has shown you, you have the option to actually build or run. Building is actually creating a brand new template, whereas running is actually populating with information as you're selecting templates. So what I did to create this template was actually go into build infographics, and then you can actually edit any of these features. You can actually go in here and change the images, or you can actually go in here and as you edit, you can replace any of these variables. So edit all variables, and it'll launch the data browser so that you can actually change them out, and you can customize it, the colors, the fonts, the text, like as much as you want. So heading back to marketing, I'm actually going to see who actually lives there. So I don't have the budget to market out to everybody in this location. So I'm actually going to just go in and take a look at who actually participated in yoga. So I'm going to go and launch Smart Map Search. And while I'm doing this, you can actually launch it from the guided tour that Praveen shared with you. So I'm going to go to Maps, Create Maps, and then go to Smart Map Search. So as I noted, I'm zoomed into the top site, and I'm doing this because I want to see who I should market this out to. So I'm going to go in to see who, I'm going to go and add the variables that I had noted previously. So median income, I had actually had yoga, people who participated in yoga previously, and I can add more variables here as well. And then I'm actually going to, as the system is calculating that data, I'm actually going to filter by using this nifty slider here. And I'm going to say, actually, I just want to focus on people whose households are at least $75 median. And then I'm actually going to focus on areas that have at least 50 people who participated in yoga last year. So for better visibility, I'm just going to clear out site 3. So this way I can see which areas I should be focusing my ads on. And then you can also actually see that as a table. Lastly, once you've done your analysis, I'll be sharing with you how to actually share the results. So Praveen had mentioned PDFs and ArcGIS web maps, but I'll be showing you our most popular way to share data, which is story maps. So I went to Maps, Share Results, and launched the Story Maps tool. And once I click Get Started, it's going to give you the ability to select from various templates. I'm going to select Cascade because that's the one that I'm most familiar with. And I'm actually going to select site 3 and 6, which were the most popular, which were the highest ranking sites. And then from here, it gives you a preview of what is going to be showing up. And the magic of story maps is that you don't need to know how to code. You have the ability to launch a website that you can share with anyone in your team, any stakeholder or your coworkers. And just from the click of a button or two, you can actually customize this as much as you want. I am going to select that I'm going to actually add my custom yoga template that I created and shown you before. And then I'm going to click apply. And this is going to create a container for each of the sites that I selected. Because site 3 was very ranked the highest, I'm actually going to add one more infographic to it. I'll add the tapestry data. And you can add additional sites here if you want, or additional items, or choose to add additional information for each of the sites. I'm going to click next, and then I'll title this Namaste Yoga, and I'll just say site options. I'll select the base map to be default, and you can choose to share with groups within your organization. In my case, I'll leave it private for now because it's in draft mode. And I'll say OK. And while that is generating, I actually have a previously created site. So immediately, it only takes a minute or so. Immediately, you'll be able to see a live site that you can publish or continue to edit. And this will show you all of the information that I was sharing. This one that I generate actually includes all the sites, but I'll give you an example of the information that it's showing. And then, as Praveen had noted previously, all of these are interactive. So your stakeholders who will be looking at this data can filter it and share, see this information the way they need to see it. And I also added the tapestry profile, so people can actually interact with the map. They can interact with all of the data. And then I'll pass it back to Jordan.
All right, thank you very much, Helen. Let me get the presentation back over to my computer. Okay, that was an awesome demo. Now for our next step, we're going to take one more poll. All right, so Let's launch the poll. The question is, do you feel better prepared to use the Business Analyst Web App now that you've attended this webinar? Yes, no, or no difference. And let's go ahead and have the votes roll in. All right. So I'm seeing 88% of you actually said yes, you feel much better from the now. A couple you didn't, that's fine. I would love to get your feedback on that. If you would like to share this feedback with us at the email address I'll share later, that'd be fantastic. And it says well with the no difference. If you can share with us your opinions, that'd be great. As a matter of fact, anybody would like to share their opinion, that'd be fantastic. All right, so before I get started on these quick links to resources, I suggest you take a moment to screenshot this slide while I'm going over it. Many of you are business analyst customers or have signed up for a free trial, but please feel free to share our free trial link with your colleagues so they can try out what you've learned today. That's at go.esri.com/ba/trial. We've launched an independent resources page as well that has training links on it, walkthroughs, guided lessons, and we update that regularly. That's at go.esri.com/bassresources. We have a YouTube playlist that has about 20 videos on it, and that keeps growing about how to use the product and the updates we make. And last but not least, if you're like me and you want to see what data is included with Business Analyst, this last link will walk you through all of that. Okay. All right. This would be a great slide to screenshot too. If you're on LinkedIn, we've created an ArcGIS Business Analyst user group where we regularly share updates, but there are also many users there that chime in. Praveen, Helen, and I are all the admins on that, so this is just to help you and to give you a place to talk to us directly. Same with that middle email address, businessanalyst@esri.com. That email goes to the three of us. So if you have feedback about that poll, about anything you saw on this, questions, feel free to send us an email. And if you're on Twitter, you could follow Business Analyst updates as well as updates to the rest of the ArcGIS apps right there at ArcGIS apps. All right, thank you so much. And now we are going to get to your questions. And so Praveen is going to unmute his mic, and we already have a few questions in the chat. So let's start out with that. Praveen, do you want to get started with the questions?
Sure. Thank you, Jordan. So I see a number of questions that are coming in here. Please keep them sending, and we would love to answer them in the next 10 minutes or so. So the first one here is when will the void analysis tool be released? We showed that in the beginning under the analysis menu, and it said coming soon. So the good news is it's planned to release this month, in the next week or the week after. So I would appreciate if you want to try it after the release and provide us some feedback through those contact links that Jordan provided. Really happy to hear that feedback on void analysis as well. The second question I see here is, how can I have access to all the data? So if I'm understanding this question correctly, the data that we showed for the US and then there are data for other 130 plus countries in the application, all that is available through the Business Analyst Web App subscription. So once you buy the application, you have access to the data through the data browser that Helen showed. You can create maps from them. You can use that data in multiple ways in the application, such as creating those maps, or you can create those infographics and reports, or also you can create Excel files out of that data that you can export out of the application as well. So the subscription to the application is how you can get access to all the data available here. The third question I see here is, can I display the variables at the postcode zip code level and then download an Excel file with that data to do custom analysis? And the answer to that is yes. Using the color-coded maps workflow or the smart maps workflow, you can display the variables, any of the data included with the application or your own, at the postcode and zip code level, and download them in an Excel file to do custom analysis. You can also summarize this information for postcodes and zip codes using infographics or tabular reports and export those to Excel as well. The fourth question here is there a way to save your locations on a map for future use, or do you have to import your sites every time you create a map? That's a good question. So we kind of touched upon the project's structure, and the project's model is essentially for that purpose. Meaning, when you create any location on the map, whether that's a pin that you drop, or you create a drive time around it, or if you use any of the city boundaries or zip codes, or even if you draw a polygon on the map, all of those can be saved in the project, and that way it is available for you to use later on. You can display it again. You use re-access the analysis you have been doing, or the maps or reports and infographics and such. So you don't have to import your sites every time you create a map. You can start from where you were you left off last time. The other question I see here is how many side-by-side analysis can we do? That's a really good question as well. So Helen showed that a little bit in the infographic view, where you can she added 2 sites and put them side by side. So you can actually add in. So there are 2 ways to do side-by-side analysis, 2 main ways to do the side-by-side analysis. One is that infographic view that Helen showed, and then the other workflow, the comparison reports workflow that we didn't have time to show today. In the infographic workflow, you can add up to 10 sites to do the side-by-side analysis. In the comparison reports workflow, you can add many more sites side-by-side to compare different variables or attributes of the locations, and continue to add hundreds of sites in there in that workflow. So there are multiples that you can add there. The sixth question I see here is how can I share my work with someone without an Esri or business analyst account? So there are a couple of ways to do that. One is, for example, creating the story map that Helen showed. So you can create a story map and share that with someone in your organization that does not have an Esri or business analyst account, and they will be able to interact with the story map without any account. The other way could be exporting the PDF of PDF format infographics or image format infographics, or creating PDF or Excel of those classic tabular reports and sharing that with others via email and such that will not need an Esri or business analyst account. You can also take, for example, when you create a map, you can also export those as PDF image and share that with others without any Esri or business analyst account. All right, so a couple other questions I see here coming in the questions window is what's the we saw a lot of data variables here, and what's the source of that data? So that's a really good question. We get that a lot. So one thing I would recommend, if you are using the application, check out the data documentation pages. That's the best resource to learn more about the source of data. But in summary, there are primarily 3 types of sources for the data included with business analyst. First one is the coming from the public sources, which is Census and American Community Survey, ACS. And we at Esri, we process and make that data be available in the application for you to use in mapping analysis and infographics and such. The second source is Esri has its own demographic and content team with demographers and statisticians on the team that process the data to estimate the current year demographics. So we saw 2019 population and historical population and such, and also the projected 2024 5 years projections that is included in the application. So a lot of that is being created by Esri, that's included with the application as well. The third source is the data that we license and from our partners and data vendors and make that available in the application. So we saw a number of data variables, such as the market potential one that was shown in the yoga studio demo, some of the traffic information and such. So those are coming from third-party sources. All right, so there is another question here that I'm seeing in the chat questions window. Is there any business listings data available for outside the US? So that's if you switch to Canada, there is data available for business listings there. For the rest of the countries, there is no business listings data available right now in the application. But if you have, for example, say your own business listings data or your own point locations data that you want to analyze, there are really good workflows in the application. For example, you can create a nearby infographic or report that allows you to summarize the number of, let's say, schools in a trade area in a 15-minute drive time around the location or in a zip code or such. So that can be done as well. One other question I'm seeing here is that how do I get my own data into infographics? So that's a really good question as well. So if you go to the add data menu in the application, the workflow we demoed was importing your spreadsheet. But you can bring in your layers using the custom data setup or the ArcGIS Web Maps workflow, and that way you can use those in infographics or in mapping or in suitability analysis on all of the workflows in Business Analyst. So that's totally possible. We have a number of documentation and videos on that topic, so I highly recommend for you to check that out. And one other question I'm getting here is the in the chat window is the how to use can we use the Business Analyst application on a mobile device? So the answer is yes. There are multiple ways of using that. So one is you can use the web application, the one we saw in the demos today. If you go to your tablet and go to the browser and type in bio.arcgis.com, you will be able to use the application on your tablet devices. But the other way, which is what I would recommend highly to you, is downloading the native applications that are available on iOS and Android marketplaces for you to use on your mobile devices. So those the mobile application of Business Analyst is included with the Business Analyst Web App subscription. So once you have the subscription, you can go to the iOS and Android marketplaces, download the app, log in with the same credential, and you'd also notice that the mobile and web app are seamlessly synced. So if you create any sites in the web application, those are available on mobile. And if you are on the go, you can create any locations on the mobile device and look at some reports, infographics, and such, and on the mobile device, and also sync that back into the web application. The other great thing with the web mobile application is that you can gather some information while you are on the go. So for example, let's say you are visiting a new property and you want to take some pictures of that, note down some attributes, how many parking spaces are there and such, take some notes about the general where the location is it a visible location close to an intersection or such. You can take those general notes as well and store that using the mobile application. So I highly recommend to check out the mobile application as well if you have the Web App subscription. All right, so those were all the questions we could answer today. If you have more questions, please feel free to contact us using the contact URLs here, and I'll hand it back to Jordan.
Thank you so much, Praveen and Helen, for demoing today, and thank you so much, everybody that has come to this webinar. I know that there were some questions that we didn't get to that were in the questions chat. So again, here's the quick links. If you want to take one last moment to screenshot it. If you have any of those additional questions that are still that you want us to answer, send us an email to businessanalyst@esri.com. That is the three of us that presented today, and we'll do our best to get to all of your questions in a timely manner. Again, thank you so much. Have an outstanding day. Thanks for attending, and take care.